This is Earth Soul Medicine, a space for spirituality, connection, and next level nourishment. Basically, all that woo-woo stuff that can be hard to discuss with the general public, that's what we are here for. You have found your tribe. So get comfy, get grounded, and let's see what comes up in this space today. I'm Samantha, I'm your host, and today I am with Chelsea, a wonderful individual. How are you today?
I'm having a great day, and I'm so excited to be here doing this with you, Sam.
Me too. It's finally happening.
Yay.
It's a good time. The first topic I wanted to bring up today actually has to do with woo-woo stuff. And it's funny because we pulled a card before this even started, and I pulled a shadow card, which deeply applies to this topic. And what I wanted to ask you was, how comfortable are you basically like sharing your spirituality with the outer world? You know, because sometimes it can be, people can be fearful of that. Like, it's a very vulnerable experience. I think for me personally, I feel vulnerable when I'm like at my authentic self like that. And I think maybe that's part of my shadow here, is like a wounding of not giving myself my true voice and not projecting that to others. It's like a defense mechanism, or I feel unsafe, so I'm just going to cloister and project what I think you want to see from me.
Right.
So I want to know if you have that same experience, or if you've like, you know, what that's like for you, embodying that part of yourself.
I think that for me, it really depends on the context, right?
Yeah.
And in most contexts, that's a hard word to pluralize. In most of my contexts, it feels pretty easy for me to be my vulnerable, authentic self. I think I am privileged in that I live in the place I've lived for almost all of the years of my entire life. And so almost everybody I know, I think in this town, it feels like home, like family to me, right? In some ways. And then having that be my experience of life, it's easy to carry that on and like manifest more of that, right?
Yeah.
One of my favorite go-to phrases is, what you focus on, you get more of.
Yeah.
And I feel like if that's my focus, that I can be myself and be real about my experiences, then I just bring more people to me with whom I can have that experience. I haven't always felt that way. And actually, like, one time when I did move away from Cave Junction and try to go off into the world and go to university, I felt incredibly uncomfortable because I didn't know how to make new relationships with new people and be my authentic self and not be like the version I thought you were supposed to be if you live in Seattle with your coffee cup and your cell phone or something. I don't know, you know?
Right,
Like,
yes.
I didn't know how to be that person. As soon as I got back to Cave Junction, living my Tequila life, then I could like be me. And so I feel really held in this place. And when I feel like confident and comfortable in myself, then I think most of the time, I can speak my truth. You know, we all go through like doubts of how is this going to be received? Just on my way here, I was, you know, preparing myself for what I might possibly talk about and how vulnerable I'm willing to be and who's going to hear this and what are they going to think, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, we pulled a card from the Rainbow Warrior deck. I had also, like, on my way out the door, just grabbed an angel card, you know, angel cards.
Oh, yes.
And I got faith. And that was a good one for me to just like my word of the year last year was trust. And those two are like hand in hand for me, you know, trust and just like the universe just guided me to just come and just have this conversation with you. And like, I have faith that whatever comes up that was meant to be talked about.
Yes.
And that's what whoever's tuning in is meant to hear. I don't know. It just gives me confidence if I just lean into that, like, it's all meant to be.
Yes, I do. I love that. And I love how you described like your Tequila life, because I do think like because we grew up in different places, and growing up on the East Coast and like outside of Atlanta, this wasn't like pulling cards or wearing crystals or smudging yourself, you know, all these types of practices, these daily practices were not a thing that was celebrated or culturally acceptable.
because I guess technically we lived in the Deep South, if that's what I would call that. We lived in the Deep South, and it wasn't like a part of my family either. So it wasn't a part of my life for a long time. And I think when I moved out here, I was like, oh, this is a thing people do. And I had my spiritual awakening, and I was like, yes, okay. But I do feel like that, like, uncomfortableness, like, ooh, is this something I'm going to be judged for? Is somebody
Right.
going to think of me differently? And then trying to, like, shed that need for social acceptance, which is just like an innate human response to interpersonal interactions.
Totally.
So, yeah, I'm kind of wondering if, like, the cultural difference of the two places, you know, like, fostered that being comfortable enough to embrace. Like, did you have a lot of people in your life who had similar practices, or like family members or friends or?
Yeah. And we were talking recently about just like the development of our spirituality,
Yeah.
like touched a little bit on spiritual awakening. And as I've been reflecting on that, I think there's no one particular practice that I would say, like, this was my spirituality from my
Yeah.
childhood. It's kind of just like this wild tapestry of all these different threads. But one thing I do think I got from growing up here is just kind of like a knowingness about spirituality, that there's so, like, no one philosophy has it all figured out, that, like, I think I got to see many different practices modeled for me and be able to see the grain of truth in all of them, or, that, like, no one is completely all of it and no one is, like, wrong,
Yeah.
but that, I would, like, in my childhood have the experience both of going with a friend to a community church each Sunday. That wasn't like my family's jam, but I would, like, maybe partially because I just wanted to hang out with my friend on the weekend,
right.
but also because, like, that's what their family was doing. And I was genuinely curious, like, what's going on here? What do these people believe? Like, is this the deal? There's a lot of Christians in the world. Do they know the truth? Let me go check into that.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe that's really offensive.
No.
I don't know. But then also would, like, have the experience that, and this is now more what my spiritual practice looks like, but I did it in my childhood with my parents, is that there's this mountain ridge up behind my house with a prayer circle at the top, and on the equinox and solstice, 2 times a year each, at sunrise, we all hike up there and meet with all the other cool hippies that live out at the end of the road. There's like at this ridge, you could get there from hiking up my side of the mountain right behind my house. It's like 45 minutes uphill.
Oh, wow.
Or you could also access the same place from a different little intentional community on the other side of the river. And we never talk about it. Like, I've never called them up and been all, hey, tomorrow's equinox, see you up there, right? We all just, like, check our planners and know it's equinox. And so you hike up there at sunrise. And I've had years where I, like more recently, where I got there and no one else did it that day. And it's cold and I'm the only one up there watching the sunrise. And that's, like, the most spiritually magnificent moments of life. Or also, and this is what happened more as a kid, was you hike up there and maybe 5 or 6 people hiked up from our side of the hill, 4 or 5 or 6 people hiked up from the other side of the hill. We all just, like, you just wander up to the sunrise peak with other sweaty, bearded hippies. I'm not one of the bearded hippies. And,
Like, clothed at least.
And then we would, yeah, we are clothed. Okay. I mean, it's cold in the morning.
Yeah, it's true.
If it was midday, maybe we'd be. Well, we, like, we'll form a circle and call in the 4 directions and watch the sunrise and give our gratitudes. And I got to have that experience growing up, alongside the church experience.
Yeah.
And so I could really see how you can find truth in all, whatever walk of life, And I think that gave me the freedom to go find my own truth and what would answer the questions of my life, and not feel like this is the way and the truth and the, like, do this one, you know? It's like, I feel like my parents and this community just have kind of like supported and enabled me to just kind of like weave through that maze to find what makes sense to me.
Yeah, there's openness, you know, and I think the exposure bit is really important, is knowing that there are different ways.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what I was missing in my early childhood, you know, to teenagehood, basically. Like, this is it. This is the one thing you do. And if you don't like it, that sucks for you.
Right.
Because this is what we're doing.
Then you're wrong and you're bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a harmful way to grow a brain.
It's harmful. Yeah. And it makes you confused. Like, it's like you're questioning yourself, which then again is harmful in a lot of ways, especially the older you get. But yeah, the exposure. And it's funny because moving here, and I don't think when I moved here almost 8 years ago, I thought I would have a kid. Like, I don't think I was thinking about it. But then when we did have our daughter, I was like, oh my gosh, we have to get out of here. Like, she's not going to have exposure. That was a big thing for me, is like, there wasn't, Atlanta is such a diverse place. You know, I think like racially and ethnically, and we had a lot of diverse cultural experiences that didn't exactly revolve around spirituality, but like you saw how people lived, and it had a large immigrant population. So it's like we had Ethiopian friends, and we would go over and the mom would cook Ethiopian food, and we'd experience that kind of situation, and it was a huge part of our life. And so when we moved here and like that's not the case, I worried. I was like, she's not going to have as much opportunity. Like, you know, in a rural area,
Right.
There's less opportunity and there's less exposure. But now that you're helping me piece it together too. And as she's grown up, I've been like, I wouldn't want to raise her anywhere else. You know, like there's so many more positives about this rural area than there are negatives now, in my opinion. Also, like, I think especially the connection to nature, because we did not have that.
Right.
That was not something that happened. I tell everybody that I can, like, I moved here and I pulled like a carrot out of the ground. For the first time in my life, I pulled food out of the ground, and it like changed me.
Right.
It totally changed me. I was like, I can't live anywhere else, you know? And I grew a garden for the first time. And yeah, it was it was like a big deal. And I think that is such a huge part of a human experience. And I think that in itself is so nourishing.
Totally.
To like get dirty and touch the earth and just like ground. I just like walk out of my house barefoot because I can. You know, we lived in a condo in the ghetto in Atlanta, and like you don't walk around barefoot, and you don't walk around at all, really. You get in your car and you drive somewhere safe. So I think those things are so important to me. And even like the spiritual aspect too, because there is a lot of diversity in that aspect in this area too. Like a lot of people have different practices and different beliefs, and it's like a nice cohesion of that. So that's funny that you brought that up.
Yeah. The experience of just straight up being in nature, having the privilege to access nature.
Yes, a
which
privilege.
Is like,
Weird that it's a privilege.
It is a privilege.
Yes, yes.
It's so true. Like I was saying, you know, when I went to Seattle and I didn't feel my authentic self, and in this last iteration of conversation, I was attributing that to not being around my people who I knew from birth, but also I was in a concrete jungle, and it weighed heavily on me. There was like one tree that I'd come down from my 10th story dorm room down the elevator and like just be under this tree where I could actually not be standing on concrete.
Yes.
Have like a little bit of earth. I was going to say brown. A little bit of brown earth.
Same thing. Yeah. Against all the gray. A lot of gray.
That was when I had my first girlfriend, and we had a sweet thing going, but like what's that? What is like? It was a deal breaker kind of a thing when she was said, you know, I just don't really like spending time outside. I was like, mind exploding. Wait, that's a thing? Like, how is that even? How would you? But but we're animals. Like, how can you not?
Yes.
It's amazing. And working with kids, you really see the difference of like, you know, kids can, one of my favorite expressions is like when kids are bouncing off the walls, just take away the walls. You go outside and everything's cool. It could be like the most hellacious day in the classroom and you're like, let's all just get outside, not just like go to the playground, like go out for a walk in the grass towards the forest. And then in like 5 seconds, you'll be like, go from, whoa, to, oh, this is the most glorious day I've ever had with these little angels.
Yes.
You know?
Oh, yes. I can say, even when they're infants, like I remember her full on like 2-hour, won't stop crying. And then my midwife was like, take her outside. And I was like,
No,
what are you
not
talking
that
about?
simple.
No, it's got to be something I'm eating. It's got to be in my breast milk. That's got to be colic. It's got to be something terrible. And then you take her outside and she's just like, looking around. Yeah,
Right.
the air on my skin, my newly formed skin. And you're just like, wow, okay, this is powerful. And that's how I really feel being here. It's like, it's so powerful.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you found your way here.
Dude, me too. I'm almost like, what was I doing before it? Because I was one of those people. I was like, outside? No.
Ew, gross.
Where's the TV? I remember describing things as smelling like outside, like it was a bad thing. I was like, no, that smells like outside. That ain't for me.
like outside. Can you be more specific? Like outside in the spring, outside when it snows.
I had such a small frame of reference because I never went outside, and it's crazy because when I was growing up, we basically lived in the suburbs, so we had a yard, you know, which isn't, when you live in like an apartment or a condo, it's not really the case. So we had a yard, and there would be things out there and people out there, and I was like, no, I can't. I'm not doing that. I'm like, what do you call this? This motion here. I'm like trapped inside. I'm like cloistered. You're like, could be a multitude of things.
Yeah, I'm not
there.
sure which direction we're going. Clawing at my heart space. Like,
That too. I'm like, my heart needs to be like exposed and nourished.
like
But I'm
aerated.
not doing that. Yeah, the outdoors. I don't know when I got it. It had to have been when I moved here because we never even hiked. We didn't do anything. And now that I look back, I'm like, that's insane. Like, no wonder I was having mental health issues and like had to drastically change my life by even moving here because we didn't even know anybody here. We were just like, we have to get out. We have to do something. And luckily, my husband, who was just my boyfriend at the time, was like, yes, let's do it. And I think that's like the Sagittarius in him. He's like, yes, adventure. Let's go try something new. Optimism. Let's do it. And I'm lucky for that.
What prompted you to, like, you like planted that seed and he was on board, it sounds like, but how were you like, I'm headed out to Southern Oregon?
Well,
how'd you get there?
wasn't, we didn't pick Southern Oregon specifically. I think we were both looking for a change. I remember I worked in communications and I was like anchoring a county news show like on cable television, and I was like, this sucks. I had stopped wearing makeup in college because I was like, this is messing with my mental health. I don't feel beautiful if I don't have a full face of makeup on, or something's wrong with that. And then also my mom was having like chronic illness issues, and so she detoxified her life. And we were like, oh, okay, we're just toxifying our whole skin, our
Right.
largest organ on our body with
Cool thing to
all
do.
this makeup. Yeah. Stylish. So we cut out, a lot of toxins, and I stopped wearing makeup. And then I went in to do the first show, and my boss was a woman, and she was like, you should wear makeup. And I was like, I don't really use makeup. She was like, it's TV.
So
It's obvious that you should definitely wear makeup. And I was like, oh, okay. So like I'd have to come in bareface, and then they would provide makeup because I had none. And then I have to put my makeup on And for me, that was like a...
Giving you the worst, most toxic makeup, probably.
Yes, right? None of the clean stuff. Also, it was harder to find clean stuff back then, like 10, 15 years ago.
It's still not easy.
It's not.
I take it. That's a whole nother road we'll go down. But
yes. But I think that was like a big
is
breaking point for me. I was like, this doesn't feel authentic. And I didn't even have that type of vocabulary at the time. But I was like, this ain't right. And this don't feel right. And it was terrible. And I think the most draining part was everybody who worked there hated the job. So I was like, I'm around these like upset, like soul-sucked people all day long. And it's like rubbing off. I feel my own soul being sucked out. And I'm like, Malcolm, I can't work there. And he was like, how are we going to pay our rent? And I was like, I don't know. And then we were at his mom's house watching a documentary on cannabis growing. And he was like, let's go grow pot. And I was like, okay, sounds great. Where are we going to do that? And then we spent like a whole year and a half researching the best climate to grow cannabis in and like, what states were allowing recreational grows because we wanted to have a whole recreational grow business. And that's why we moved here. And I remember moving here. Well, the trip to here was like a whole crapshoot, which is a whole nother thing.
That's a whole nother episode.
Yes. But when we moved here and people would be like, oh, like, why the move all the way from Atlanta, Georgia? And I would be like, I don't know what to tell these people. Because I'm used to being like, cannabis is like a Schedule I drug in Atlanta. Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to get arrested. Like, I don't know.
And everyone's actually sussing you out to see if they can tell you about their cannabis grow.
It's like, no, everybody I know grows pot. And it's like not hilarious. A big deal. Yeah, I was so scared. I'd always be like, oh, the nature. Or luckily his Malcolm's grandmother, my husband's grandmother, lives in Portland. And so we'll be like, oh, his grandmother lived in Portland. We came out here and visited one time, which is a straight lie. I've never been here. I had never visited here. And I was like, we just fell in love with it. And,
Well, that story will fly because that's how everyone else ended up here. Or at least that's the story they're telling me.
People bought it.
Everybody says. And that's how my family ended up here. Both my mom and dad are kind of like, I came to Cave Junction. I never left.
And never left. Yeah, I hear that story specifically in Takilma.
Yeah, that's true. It is a Takilma thing. But it's also an Illinois Valley thing, I think. The region.
It's the vortex, I think.
It is the vortex.
Pulling people in.
It is.
Valley of the Seven Winds. When I heard that, I was like, wow, this makes sense.
I never heard that. What is that?
Apparently, and I wish I knew the exact peoples or tribe, but natives have called this the Valley of the Seven Winds because of the vortex.
What?
Yes.
I want to learn more about that.
Me too.
We should be taking notes on our future topics that we're pulling from.
I do have
this.
a notebook.
Yeah.
So, and the number 7.
I mean,
yeah,
all the good things come in 7s.
So true.
What favorite things do you have that are magical about number 7?
Well, if we're going to get like super woo-woo about it.
I think that's the point.
I will say 7 comes up for me a lot when I am clearing my field or I'm clearing someone else's field. What I mean when I say that.
You took the words right out of my mouth. You saw it in my eyebrows.
I feel like I need to preface, but I've been studying with this shaman, but he refers to himself as a quantum plant alchemist. I find that to be a mouthful. Okay, so I'm like...
But informative about where he's coming from.
Yes, for sure. So I've been mentoring with this shaman, David Farrell, for a while, and his specialty is looking into a field, finding the negative attachments, or if you have a tear in your field, or if you have, like cords, negative entities shamanic things.
Just to back up like one step further, when
Okay,
you say my
sure.
field, like my auric,
Yes,
like
your
this
morphogenic
little
field.
half globe thing around me ish.
Right, it's huge though.
Right,
And
because
it
I don't
extends
know
out.
it very well.
Yes.
Well, I'd love to get to know you better. I say, looking to the orb that I don't even know the immense size of.
I love this. I don't even think people, like on Earth know the immense size of it. Like dang, what is her name? Barbara Brennan is attributed with notating the length and layers of the human morphogenic and energetic field.
Whoa.
And so it's her work that you see when you see images of your auric field and its layers of colors, and then anything outside of it, and they're all attached to your chakra system.
What an incredible thing to try to quantify.
Yeah, it was like her life's work. I mean, she traveled the globe and talked to all of these like ancient cultures and the elders of these ancient cultures and like combined all this incredible knowledge. And she does the hands-on healing stuff. So she has there's a whole school for Barbara Brennan, and you can learn how to like manipulate and heal the human energy field, energetically, quantumly, they call it now.
Right.
Just like with your hands and like knowing how to see. So I guess there's like a psychic element there, intuition. Super cool. I wish I knew more about it or that I could go.
But when you're clearing the field, you get the number 7.
Yes, if I'm removing something, if I'm removing like a specific entity, I will get the number 7 for that entity.
How do you get it? Like
it just comes. It's like
you're
it's
like thinking 7.
Yes, it's a clear cognizance thing. So the number 7 you're like, oh, it was 7. But I'm starting to like it was 7 of these entities, or they're connected to the number 7. And I need to look further into that because I've just been like, okay, they're gone. Because my intent has been done is that they're gone, is I want to get rid of them. And this comes up in my life a lot. And I think that's why I pulled the shadow card too, is that I'm resistant to like negative things, quote unquote, like pain. If it's painful for me, I just want to get rid of it. I don't want to deal with it. But really, like, the cure for pain is in the pain, Rumi. And I need to enter that door. So I think like coming to this, why is the number 7 coming up, would be an entering through that door situation that I need to like sit down and deal with. But that's what that reminds me of. That 7 always comes up for me with that. But also when I'm making flower essences, it's 7 drops. Always do the 7 drops.
Interesting. I'm so fat. I would add it to the list, dude. I want to talk more and more about. I'm barely hanging on in my mind, even understanding where you're at. But I'm like, yeah, I want to understand this.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's like a lot. And the first I met this guy, I met my mentor through receiving one of these clearings myself, because I was like, I'm doing all the things, I'm intent. I have intent. I'm smudging. I'm meditating. I'm doing mantras. I'm working with crystals and plants and stuff, but something's not right. Like, and I always was like, there's more, there's something wrong. And I could identify a tear in my field. And I was like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, there's something wrong on this side of me. I remember saying to him. And I was like, it feels like a tear. And as I was saying it to him, I was like, it feels like a tear? Like, I don't know.
I don't know what I'm saying.
Of this stuff. But like, please help me. And after that clearing, which was like 3 years ago, right after the clearing, he sends you a sheet, an email of all the things, because he does it quantumly, so it's not in person. So he sends you an email with all of the things that he removed, all the things he found. And I was reading through it and I was like, the fuck is this? I was like, what is this? I was like, what have I done? Like, really? Because like, you see like nanobots on there. And I was like, nanobots? What is he even talking about? And then you see like demons or lower astral beings. And I was like, I don't know. what any of this is. And I remember telling Malcolm because poor Malcolm, right? Because he met me before the spiritual awakening. So he's all new to this too. Yes, he's along for the ride.
Totally.
And I was like, look at all this stuff that was cleared out of my field. And he was like, that's weird. That's not, I don't know what that is. You sure this guy isn't crazy? Like,
yeah, that's a bunch of woo-woo.
Yes, exactly. That's a bunch of woo-woo.
Yeah. How much did you pay for that?
Yes, exactly.
Was that what he's thinking?
It was a lot, too.
But you're like, this explains me.
Yes, I was like, I feel it. I was like, I can't explain to you, but I feel it. And then I had some energy work done, and somebody was like biofield tuning my field. And they were like, whoa, your field is so clear. And I was like, yes!
That's right,
validation.
baby.
I was like, I'm not crazy. I knew it. And after that, it just like kept going because he was like, hey, I can see the plants are really with you. And I was like, the plants? You know, I was like so excited for myself. I was like, somebody sees this in me. He was like, I'm getting like a hedge witch vibe. I was like, hedge witch! I like this for me. This is a new term. I'm adopting it. And ever since then, we, you know, the relationship progressed. Yes. I was like, you get me, you understand? He was like, if you ever want a one-on-one mentoring session, we can talk about more things. And I was like, yes, when can we do that? When can we do that immediately? Mm-hmm. Like, let me sign up for this. And so we had a few of those. And then after that, we would just call to talk because we would see, you know, similar things. Similar things were coming together. And I would have experiences. I'd be like, something's up. Like, I feel something, you know, like I can tell that I feel something. And I'd be like, help me, like, check out my field, see what you see. And he was like, at one point, he was like, no. He was like, absolutely not. He was like, you need to sit with this because this is an invitation for you. You're being invited to learn something new about this. And I was like, oh, God, it felt really scary to me. And also a lot of, like, the spiritual teachers that I had been interacting with were always like, when you say yes, like, just so you know, when you say yes, you can't say no afterwards. Like, there's no retraction here. Like, it's like you're entering a portal.
That was what I thought you were going to say. I'm like, whoa, I'm like mesmerized. That's a different answer to that premise than I know. But it's so true. Once you say yes, you can't say no.
Yes, because you're forever changed. And nothing's this, you see the world differently. It's totally different. And then they're all like, the more light you carry, the same amount of darkness will come to you. Like, that's like the law of balance here, the law of duality.
Boy, howdy.
Yes. So I'm like, oh my God, like, I don't know if I can handle any more darkness. What are we talking about? And he was like, this is the invitation. You're being invited. A plant is working with you. And at the time it was mugwort. So it was like Artemisia heavy, which has that moon side, that dark side. And he was like, you're being invited to figure this out for yourself. He's like, I'm not helping you do this. You work it out. And I think that like forcing me into doing it myself was life-changing for me. Like, everything changed after that. I was like, you know, now I'm clearing my field multiple times a day. I'm clearing my family's field.
Can you do my field? Sign me up. Sounds awesome. I think I need some of that.
I love it. Yes. Yes. Of course.
Okay. As soon as we're done with this.
Yeah.
Chelsea's getting her field.
I don't even know how we got onto that.
7. Led us there.
7.
So that is some sort of invitation.
Yes,
for you.
Yes. And I have a problem of being afraid of the invitation, which is the resistance thing, you know. So what about you? What does 7 bring up for you?
I started just liking 7 because I'm born in July, and 7 is my, like, July 2nd is to me 7-2, and so 72 or 27 are all things with 7s. Just always been attractive to me. I don't know why. But then in the last, like, 3 or 4 years become aware of how the greatest sources of wisdom in my life, there's two like curriculums that I follow. I'm super passionate about conscious discipline, which is a behavior guidance thing that we mostly use with kids, but it's actually about doing it with ourselves as adults first. And so it guides my life immensely. And in conscious discipline, there's 7 principles for conscious adults that you follow. And so that was like first of all, I teach that curriculum. So I'm always thinking about the 7 principles, it's the 7 habits of conscious adults. And then also the other greatest source of wisdom of my life is the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yes.
I freaking love that book.
I downloaded it on Audible.
Yes. High five.
I haven't read the whole thing though, or listened to it, whatever.
Well, that is an interesting thing because it's a super dense book and it's pretty hard to get into. I think Audible is actually a good way to approach it. But what I've started recommending to people is that a more digestible version of the same content is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, even not for teens. Like as an adult, I maybe have gotten more out of that version than the adult version. And part of it, I think, is maybe that it's like written... It feels like for the generation before me. I don't know why or what I even mean by that, but it's like the language is just, it doesn't feel like how you and I are talking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like kind of heady. That's not a good word for it. I don't even know what I'm saying right now.
I get what you're saying though, because I was telling her I was watching the Harry and Meghan documentaries special on Netflix, and they show like these clips from when Queen Elizabeth II was like 22 and entering into the monarchy, and I was like, whoa, they are talking a lot different.
It's
and
like
it's
a
not even that long
different
ago.
language, even though it's our actual language.
Yes.
Yeah. A different way of using language, which makes sense because we're coming from like a different understanding of the, language is
for
just a
sure.
reflection of, anyway, that's a whole other talk. Anyway, so, but the 7 habits of highly effective people and the 7 habits of conscious adults are not at all related. I don't think that Stephen Covey and Becky Bailey, the creators of those 2 things, were like exchanging letters. They're not writing.
Right.
They weren't on the same page doing work together, but their 7 things totally correspond. Like you could match them up.
Wow.
A to, like you were doing a quiz,
Yeah.
which one from the A to B column is like the 1 to 2 column. You know
That's
what I'm
how
saying?
you know it's the real deal.
And so I'm always just like, how did both of these people figure out the 7 elements of life that make all my problems get solved if I just turn to these guiding principles?
Yeah.
And to me, I don't know, that just like, I spend a lot of time going like, what other, because there's other things too I've seen where there's like 7 guiding principles. And it seems to be this like theme I find a lot in my studies. And then if I see it presented as though there's 7 bullet points, I'm like, it's truth. I don't know why, but I'm sure this is true.
It's meant for me, and it's 100% true.
It's like a stupid cognitive bias I have now. But
Or you could just call it a synchronicity.
oh, maybe that's a better way to look.
Yeah. Let's put a positive spin on that. I do love that, though, how they connect in that way. And it reminds me of, like, the energetic systems, culture to culture, and how, like, I have this book, the Energy Encyclopedia, or the Encyclopedia of Energy Work, or
cool.
something like that. It's great. Cindy Dale. It's like a plethora of information. And it'll show you, like, the written energy systems of separate cultures and how they're the same. It's like it's the same, it's a different word, or it might have additional meanings or whatever, and they were all, written separately in an unglobalized world.
Right.
So you're like, wow, people over here saw something, people over here saw the exact same thing in the human body, in the energy field, and yeah, it's fascinating.
That is fascinating. I want to look at that book.
Yeah, it's great. Maybe I can bring it in.
Do that.
It's thick. It's a textbook. You're probably
favorite
not
kind of
shy
book.
away from.
Yeah, I'm like, start drooling. Most people are like,
Yeah.
I'm like, a textbook? Yeah. I love textbooks.
Yes. Yes.
This is
I knew
why
we
we're
were
meant to be
kindred
friends.
spirits. funny.
That's awesome.
The minute I met you, too, I went home to Malcolm and I was like, I think I made a friend. She wants to be my friend. I want to be her friend. I'm like a schoolgirl coming home to talk to my parents.
Can we keep her?
Yes. And he's always been telling me to like make friends because I was like a straight hermit when I first moved here. And I was like, no, I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to do anything. And maybe that's like the Taurus in me. Like I just want to be at home, laying on a pillow, eating grapes all day. I don't want to be out talking to people.
Right.
But like the more involved I've gotten, the better my life seems to be.
Totally. I feel the pain though because maybe it comes from having grown up in the same place where like all the people I know, I already know them from my childhood. I don't I don't remember making friends with people, and just like if you go to school together, you
You're
know
friends.
each other.
Yeah.
You were pretty much friends.
Yeah.
Even if you're not, and then once you graduate, you're not like friends, but you all know each other. Like
Yeah.
and then you just become friends because I don't know why, you just do, or you don't. I don't know. Anyway, the point of this being, I don't know how you just make a friend, but what I love is when this energy happens where, you like, you meet someone and you're like, yeah, we have a lot to talk about. Like,
yes.
okay, I just need more time to discuss all the things with you because we're grokking,
Yes.
And
what a great word. Grokking.
it comes, where that
Nope.
word comes from?
Never heard it before.
Really?
Yes.
It's, I think it has become common lingo in Tacoma, maybe. I don't know, but it comes from this book. I keep forgetting the Stranger in a Strange Land. And it's like, it's hard to describe, but there's a man from Mars. He is a human, but he was raised on Mars, and then he comes back to Earth, and he's describing Martian concepts, and one of them is that when you like deeply understand someone, like like I feel you, like I get what you're saying, I totally, like deeper than words can really, when you just have like that knowing when someone's talking about or of a concept, and you're just like, yes, truth, like I know in my bones. That's grokking.
You've grokked. Can you use it like that?
Yeah. I grok,
Okay.
You've grokked that, or I grok it. It can be like, you can use it in all the ways.
Okay. Interesting. I'm going to drop that on
a
my
really good
husband
book.
later, see how that goes.
Someone had used that word to me, and I had like become aware of it long before I actually read this book.
Oh, wow.
But it's become a concept. It's from Mars. Anyway.
Yes.
But I just feel like we grokked each other, right?
Yes.
From as soon as we met. And I've had this with other people in the last few years too, where like I know I want to be friends with you, and also I don't know how to make any time in my life to like, or I don't know how to. I don't know. What do you do? Have people over for tea or like?
I know.
But I don't have people over. I'm such an introvert. My home is like my sacred space, and I'm at the end of the road, and it just doesn't ever make sense, Or like maybe I try to go for a walk with people. I always have these ideas of how I'm gonna make them my friend, make a friend, and that never works out.
Yeah.
But what happens is the universe delivers us some cool way to work together and create this synergy. Like this happened for me and my friend Sarah, who works at Healthy You with me too, for when we first met all the time. Actually, the first way we hung out was that we would keep meeting at the top of the mountain on equinox and solstice because she'd be coming up from the other side. And we'd be like, dude, we should be friends. Like, we could literally walk to each other's backyards, which we never actually do, except for on the equinox and solstice.
Right.
But we could, know? And we would try all the time to find a way to hang out. And we never did. And then the universe just delivered us both into working at Healthy You. And now that's like,
wow.
We also have Kristen and Lindsay, and there's a team, but, we're the...
You made it happen. The energy
we get
pulled
to
together.
be together and be friends, but also do meaningful work, and it's super cool. And I feel like that same thing happened with us, where I knew I wanted to do something like this, but I had no idea how to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I knew I wanted to hang out with you and talk to you more. And then you were like, "Hey, Chelsea, let's do this." And I was like, "Oh, hell yeah!"
That's so awesome that happened with you guys too. I'm trying to imagine that happening, or like, think of a time that that's happened. But lately, I feel like having a school, quote unquote school age, because she's just preschool, a school age child, it's kind of like forces some friendships on you, like your kid is playing with another kid. And the mom's like, we should have you over
That
one
seems
day.
to be all the way that all parents make friends is that you have to just be friends when you're parents. One of the kids had this. It was a quote of the week. The first week of preschool was Bailey said, quote, all the parents in the world are friends, but they don't know it. Only the kids know it.
I read that on the wall.
And when she said that, I was like goosebumps, like mic drop. Oh my God, I got to get a Crayola marker and write that down right now. Oh man, that's so true. And
Yes.
I think, there's a lot of reasons in my life I want to be a mom, but I have some serious jealousy of the whole mommy club because once you're a mom, you're automatically friends with all the other moms.
It's so true.
And I'm like, I know a lot about child development. Can I give you some advice on your
I'm an honorary member.
But yeah, I'm going to go home and sleep in, so I know you're kind of actually pissed at me deep down.
Oh my God, I love that.
That's
So cute.
I guess I am pretty comfortable with being vulnerable. Some deep wounding.
That's the point, right? That's the point here.
Yeah.
I love that though.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a mom.
That's a cool
thing.
ticket into a club of friendship.
It's cool, but also sometimes it's
Comes at a
like
great cost.
yes. Sometimes it's not so cool because you're like, man, especially if you start to get to know a family or like a mom and their kid, and you're like, I don't agree. Like, this is a tough spot. I'm like, I would parent in a different way, or I would have chosen even just a different snack for my child. And it's like I have to keep the number one, the judgment in check and be like, hey, she's got a kid or she's got two kids. Like, she's just trying to make it work. She's doing her best. I'm not perfect. So like keeping that in check. But also if it's like the kid is challenging or like doesn't get along with your kid too well, you're like, oh, why are we here?
Right.
If this is a play date and I'm forced to be your friend, I don't think this is working out.
Yeah.
So that's always an interesting like bridge to cross.
A lot of
as well.
dynamics going on there, for
Yes,
sure.
but I love how moms will be like, and I'll be like this too. Like, we should have you over. Is the main thing. You guys should come over for dinner. And then it never happens.
Right.
Because you're like, who has time to clean your house for guests to come? And then your kid like missed their nap, or they're just, having a difficult day. And you're like, wow, I don't want to see anybody else. So yeah.
No doubt. This thing about why we all clean our house to have people come over, or we don't have people come
It's a
over, or we don't clean our house,
Maybe
or
it's like a
we're
problem
not
for me.
motivated to clean. I've been wondering this about myself. Like, why am I so much more motivated to clean my house because someone else is coming over? Why wouldn't I want it clean for
you.
myself or for my sweet wife? And actually
Yeah.
that also would motivate me more, would be, I'm going to do the dishes today because that would be so nice for Ruth to come home to work from that, instead of like, I would like to have a clean counter with no
Yeah.
dishes. I don't know, like, why can't
Yeah.
I just claim, I don't know why I put my value. This is a weird can of worms, but I just wonder about these things.
Oh, please. I think about this often. And I think my problem is I'm the clean one in our relationship, in our marriage. And he would live in a garbage can with no problem. Like his whole life, not a big, even with the kid. And I'm like, this is not safe. This is dirty and gross. Let's wipe off the countertop. But like, I get so stressed out if there's dirt. Not even like dirt. I think it's clutter mostly, and it's the countertops, I think. Mm-hmm. If there's like stuff on the floor in the living room and there's dried, crusty, sticky things in the kitchen, I like have a problem I can't deal. And I get flack for this all the time because I will wait to cook breakfast till like 11:30 a.m. because I have to clean the whole kitchen before it happens.
Right.
Whereas at nighttime, it's okay. Like, it's okay for the kitchen to be clean. Like, I won't stay up late to clean the kitchen. It's like
Right.
I've turned it off. I'm like, the day is over. I'm just like, F this. Like, I'm tired, you know? And then I wake up and all of a sudden I'm motivated. I also find I'm motivated, and my husband calls this rage cleaning when I'm angry.
Totes.
Or like something's wrong. And I'm like, I have to like reorganize things within myself. So I do that outwardly. So I like,
that's a cool way to look
clean
at
the
that.
house. It becomes meditative if I'm not in the anger space.
Or if you use it consciously.
Yes.
Right. Because I have trained myself to stop using that same thing unconsciously.
Yes.
I would like catch, like you were talking about how you want to move away from pain, right?
Yes.
I would like do this. This was part of my conscious discipline journey, waking up to my self-talk and like the things I do when I'm triggered. I would just like, I realized one time I would be doing something else, like, and then I would get triggered about something through like probably a conversation with my sweetie, or could just be like my thoughts, or, you know, seeing a text or something like that. And then all of a sudden I like wake up to myself angrily putting away all the dishes, like clanging them away, scrubbing this part on the dishwasher that has been a sticky spot there for, I don't know, all of a sudden it's the priority that this must get scrubbed. But I like would like, whoa, how did I end up doing this? I didn't know this was I wasn't planning on cleaning the kitchen right this minute of the day, you know? Oh, that was me escaping from the thing I didn't actually want to think about and talk about and look at right then. And so I turned my consciousness with practice over time to like, you know, catching myself going to put away the dishes and being like, was this my plan? No. Okay, why am I doing this? Okay, maybe it would be actually good to just talk to Ruth about that thing she said that pissed me off.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
Or that's not even an accurate way to put it either, because then it sounds like she did something
the
that
onus
made me
on-
mad.
Exactly,
You know, actually,
exactly.
I had a reaction to something that happened.
Right.
And I need to
sit
look
down
at
with
that
myself.
and journal about it for a little while and
Yeah.
figure it out. Because the other way it comes out is that I blame her for it, like I just did in my language unconsciously.
Yes.
You know?
It happens, man. It's a journey.
But tuning into that kind of stuff is, allowed me to, I don't do as much rage.
Yes.
What is the term? Rage cleaning?
Rage cleaning.
Yeah, I don't do it so much anymore. But I
Yeah.
like turning it into, because that's very true. And I really think there is like a mental health component to having a clean, not sticky countertop, you know, an uncluttered space. You like are a different, it's like being out in nature, right? It's like if you're going to be inside, you want it feeling peaceful and not chaotic around you. And it makes a big difference for how you show up in your space.
It really does.
And how you take care of your space. This is a huge principle in setting a classroom, which maybe is a nerdy way to take this conversation, but
I
it's
like that.
This is why in the Reggio Emilia philosophy and others, teachers spend a lot of time. There's like two things. There's cleaning up at the end of the day, and then there's resetting, which is where you go through and you make it all look perfect and beautiful again, with the idea that if the kids come into that, even if they're going to destroy it and it's all going to be on the floor 5 minutes later, when they came in and saw that that's how it's meant to be, it teaches you how to value your things and take care of them and know that's what it's supposed to look like when you put it away again, you know, and you like have a very different energy in that space than if you come back in and it's thrashed after you've been outside or whatever, then everybody's once again bouncing off the walls.
Yes. I love that connection. And it reminds me of like the whole concept of feng shui.
Totally.
And like the energy in a room and how it moves depending on how things are set up. And then I think, you know, I go back to like paganism about like the sweeping of the home and like the getting everything out that's not supposed to be there, which is technically like the reset, which is how you balance the space. So like it is really important. And now I'm going to go home and be like, this is how important it is.
I was just saying, I'm so motivated to go home and clean my house right now because I want to, not because I'm raging at it. But so do you do the second sweep when you sweep your house?
I try.
I've been out of practice out of it lately. I used to be religious about it.
Yes. It's so nice. I don't know how to explain. It's so nice. But I do find myself, there are periods of time where I'm like into a practice hardcore and I'll do it for 6 months straight. And then there'll be a period after that where I'm like not as on top of it.
Right.
Like I was doing that with like smudging of herb bundles that I grew myself and dried and was like really intentional about it, and then doing my whole home, and focusing on the corners and everything. And especially when my daughter was younger and we would have like an explosive tantrum, I'd be really conscious of like smudging the space afterwards, like releasing that energy from the home. So you like open your windows and you open the door.
Gold star mom move.
Well, look, it didn't happen all the time.
But that you even thought of it. I've never heard of that before. I've talked to a lot of moms.
Yes, yeah. And it helps you too, because you're getting even
Totally.
the benefit of smelling the smoke
Yes.
and it like entering your pores, and
That you set the intention that you're going to clear the
Yes.
space at all and not just keep
Yes.
down that rage spiral of dysregulation.
Yes, dysregulation.
This concludes the first part of a 2-part episode. You can catch the continuation of Sam and Chelsea's conversation next Friday at 3 p.m. on the air at KXCJLP 105.7 and 101.3 FM, or streaming on all podcast platforms. Be sure to follow Earth Soul Medicine on Instagram at Earth Soul Medicine Podcast and on Facebook at Earth Soul Medicine. Earth Soul Medicine is brought to you by Veil Voyager, a mystical brand based in Southern Oregon, offering intuitively crafted plant essences, psychic mediumship readings, and all things spiritual self-care, including Portal Planner, a yearly guide for spiritual self-care covering topics such as crystal wisdom, plant spirit healing, and ancient rituals, all aligned with the cycles of the moon. Find out more at www.veilvoyager.com or on Facebook and Instagram at VEILVOYAGER. Veil Voyager. Seek and you shall find.